Branden, how are you? Can you hear me?
Happy birthday.
How old are you? What is that?
To you.
Cop.
Happy birthday.
Biden's being an extremist.
To you.
So the best way to get something done, if you
Happy birthday.
it holds near and dear to you that you
Mr. President.
like to be able to.
Happy birthday.
Anyway.
To you.
Oh, you know the thing. You're not out in the rain with the Halloweeners.
Dear God, somebody take the car keys away. By the way, context.
Oh, you know the thing. You're not out in the rain with the Halloweeners.
He wasn't saying Halloweeners. He was saying Halloweeners.
It doesn't matter.
He was saying Halloweeners. Somebody take the car keys away from this dude, please. Man. Listen, I don't care that he's 80 years old. Here's what I care about. The dude just should not be president. Joe Biden turning 80 years old over the weekend, and I'm thinking about this. Think about it this way. If you're on I-70 right now, like, not only did we not have I-70 80 years ago, we didn't even have an interstate system in this country 80 years ago.
What year did the guy run for president the first time? It was like almost 20 years before Hannah was born that he ran for president, right? It was 88. And Hannah was born in
Talk about taking the car keys away over there.
And he was the favorite, by the way, in many ways to win in 88. George H.W. Bush was the vice president at the time. His poll numbers were really, really low, if you remember. Michael Dukakis ended up getting the nomination, and Dukakis was up by 17 points, but, you know.
And that ended up being like the worst presidential landslide in history. Is that the one, Joe? Was Michael Dukakis clobbered by Reagan, or was that Mondale?
Well, Dukakis was beaten, but if you remember, there was an ad about a guy named Willie Horton that kind of turned that campaign around. But Biden was the favorite in many ways. He was the favorite to win, and it just didn't work out. Didn't work out for him at that election. Now, of course, he came back years later.
And it's not working out for us here in 2022. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, 7:35. Congressman-elect Mark Alford was in Washington, D.C. this past week. Kind of interesting. We might get into some politics, but I do hope you join us. Talking about the freshman orientation process. Last week, all these freshman lawmakers that were just recently elected to Congress, they were in Washington, D.C. going, okay, Mr. Alford, and here's the bathrooms down the hall to the left. If you want a cup of coffee, you can go to this hallway. So he's going to be joining us 7:35 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Shooting in Colorado over the weekend. The reaction is what gets me on this stuff. Shootings happen, and it's always sad. You hate to see loss of life, especially in that kind of situation. People out, whether you're at a nightclub in Jefferson City, Columbia, St. Louis, these things happen, and it's horrible. But the reaction, I guess it's always, I find that a lot of these people, and I'm going to stereotype a little bit here, the progressives, they're the ones that are always labeling groups of people, whether, it's blacks, it's minorities, it's transgens, it's cisgens, it's LGBTQs, it's blacks, it's gays, it's minorities, it's Asians. They're the ones that seem to put all these labels on everybody. And then we'll turn around and say, we shouldn't be using labels on people. They're always doing that. We got to quit using labels. And I get that this is sad, and they're investigating it as a hate crime. And I think anytime you go and unload and shoot and kill 5 people, I think it's hate, regardless of the reason. But the reaction to what happened, and it's incredibly sad. It's just it's when people start to, as happened on Twitter over the weekend, people say, it's no coincidence that Trump announced last week he's running for president. Now you got a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs being shot up. I just don't buy that, because it's that lack of responsibility. They always want to blame. There's a reason for this happened because of this. Well, you know what happened? Listen, you go into a nightclub with the intent of killing people. Yeah, dude's crazy. But they always want to blame it's somebody's fault. Reparations. It's Brian Houseworth's fault that we had slavery 250 years ago. It's his fault. He's got to pay reparations, which, by the way, happened over the weekend. I can't remember if it was Baltimore, somewhere, but they've signed, the city says, okay, we've got a reparations program in play now. In St. Louis, they're trying to do universal income programs. A lot of you talk to politicos in St. Louis and say, it's reparations because it's supposed to be universal pay for poor people. It's really, they mean it. The mayor there, Tashara Jones, she means it for black people. Disgusted at folks trying to blame Trump to blame for everything. He announces he's running for president. It's his fault that dude went into that Colorado nightclub and did that. It's his fault, the events of January. It's always somebody else's fault. I don't make enough money sweeping floors at the Walmart. It's your fault that I don't make enough money. You just need to pay me more. It is incredibly frustrating. MSNBC guest Danielle Moody Mills is talking about. Anybody excited that Trump? He's been reinstated on Twitter, but he's got his own thing, Truth Social, which I think has like 4 million followers, 4 million folks on it. Marsh, you on Truth? Me neither. I'm barely on Twitter. And he's got, I don't know how many millions, far more millions, millions and millions more followers on Twitter. Elon Musk taking a very scientific social media poll saying, should we reinstate Trump? And the folks on Twitter said, yeah, Trump should be back on. So he said Trump's back on. That caused a lot of excitement. And again, a lot of this, I go back, it's labeling. It's labeling groups of people. And that's what this MSNBC guest, Danielle Moore Mills, did.
But what else do we expect from very white, privileged, cis, hetero men protecting each other because we always mistake wealth and inheritance?
So it's white, cisgender men. We're putting labels on people. And then in the next breath, we're going to tell you, we got to quit labeling people. Love one another and everybody. Quit labeling stuff. And then there are the ones that are labeling stuff.
You think Trump's actually going to tweet?
I don't know. He's got his own thing that's, I guess, doing okay. 4 million followers. I don't know. But yes, he will. And when that day comes, it'll be big news because it's the holidays and there's not a lot of stuff usually that happens news-wise.
He doesn't like taking an L. I know that. And so with his new platform not doing as well as he wanted, I feel like he has to make that decision of whether he gets back on Twitter. And I saw an interesting take yesterday. And by tweeting and using Elon's platform, he's almost saying he's subordinate or submitting to the power of Elon and admitting that, Elon ultimately controls his Twitter destiny, right? And he's not going to like that.
No.
There on the issue of the shooting itself, there is kind of an interesting story. And there's all sorts of sidebars, and Brandon's right. People are casting some blame. Some are blaming Republican. The people that voted, I've even seen progressives on Twitter say that if you voted Republican, at least one tweet I saw yesterday said if you voted Republican, you're responsible for this. But there is a article in the Colorado Springs Gazette, which is a really good newspaper, and they are reporting, Brandon and Stephanie, that this Anderson Lee Aldridge, a guy with the same name and matching age in June of 2021, that person, if it's the same one, they're not, even the paper's not 100% sure, may have called in a bomb threat, but there were no charges ever filed in the case. Now, that case is sealed, according to the newspaper, and they're reporting that Aldridge actually called an editor at the paper and asked them to remove the story on the website, saying that the case was dropped. And I don't know whether they dropped it or not. I'm a little unclear on the story, but that's baffling to me that the case is sealed from the bomb threat. I'm a little unclear. It's a pretty good story, but a lot of unanswered questions about that.
I just get frustrated. A lot of that progressive liberal mindset, and you see it locally. We see it in Columbia. You see it in St. Louis. You see it nationwide. It's somebody else. It's somebody's fault. It's not the people who did the stuff. It's fault. There's just incredible lack of responsibility. By the way, coming up 8:10, Michael Ryan, Heartlander News, is here. Interesting article. Biden administration still out to censor its critics on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media. According to Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. Great article in the heartlandernews.com. Michael Ryan's going to be joining us at 8:10. Talk about that here on the show. Somebody else got... I cannot believe, and again, I'm just, man, you want to get Twitter, check out Hannah and Stephanie Bell's Twitter pages at Stephanie S. Bell, Hannah at producer /_Canna.
Something like that.
Close.
Close enough.
That's not really how Twitter works, but okay.
Yeah. And I know this. But I just can't believe how the national news outlets and the people, how they're just, number one, just, as Joe would say, terroristically upset over what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter. I'm like, this is a free social media platform. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. And then you're going to complain about this guy who's now in charge of him. By the way, you're using his platform to complain about the guy, but it's just like really wet the bed. Like I guess I just don't get it, man.
And I have questions because I think at most workplaces, like say the local McDonald's, if half the people walked out, like there would be a long line the next day. Here at Zimmer, if half the people walked out, like the next day we would struggle, right?
We're struggling now already.
No,
and
but
it's not even 6:20 yet, John.
But he basically, half his employees are gone and the system is still up. I haven't noticed any glitching. It's not slow. It hasn't been overrun other than by liberals who are mad about what Elon is doing. But like functionally, it appears to be, it's the same, right? And so, you know, in what world can half of your people leave and your product be essentially unchanged? You know, I think Elon's on the right path, right? And we talked a little bit last week about, well, you know, 10% of the people do 90% of the work, and maybe they really, really do. And he's taking pictures, he's doing things. I think there are some changes. I think who else is back? Like Project Veritas is back, Babylon Bee's back, Trump's back. I mean, he has restored some accounts, and at the same time, I've heard rumblings that there are other unsavory accounts that actually people are seeing less of, specifically dealing with like child trafficking and that kind of thing. And so he's actually taken some action there. So overall, you know, I'm really pleased. But I do have questions about how you can lose all your staff and
still be good.
And just, be fine.
There's a liberal tech journalist who's upset, Kara Swisher, who's actually on CNN over the weekend. She says, you know, Elon Musk sent me an email and called me an a-hole. And who hasn't been called an a-hole?
Are you an a-hole? I mean, did you deserve it?
That's a good question, too. Mike, off the text, 874-9390. The only thing Trump will post on Twitter now would be, follow me on Truth Social. And then give the link.
Will he just do that screenshotting of the Truth Social and then just post the picture? That would be a Trump move.
That is very Trump. And coming up here on the show, 5 minutes from now, Daily D.C. Rundown. There are some other things happening in Washington, D.C. What do you have for us this morning, Steph?
Well, we're starting to break down different groups who voted in different ways in the midterm.
pundits said that the Latino vote was going strongly and swiftly to Republicans. They said that there was a massive realignment that was happening that is shaking up politics and could potentially doom Democrats to the minority in perpetuity. Let me tell you, that did not happen.
U.S. Representative Ruben Gallego from Arizona talking about the impact of the Hispanic, the Latino vote in the election a couple of weeks ago. How are those claims shaken out? That's what we're looking into this morning in the Morning Daily D.C. Rundown. Stephanie Bell.
It's a Monday.
Thank you.
A Monday of a vacation
I appreciate your grace. I really do.
Well, Republicans, there has been a lot of chatter about how Latinos are realigning with the Republican Party. Republicans had really high hopes in the midterms that they would see this bear out. Republicans actually put up a huge number of Latina candidates, and it didn't really work out for us. Several of the Republican Latina candidates actually lost, particularly I think one in Virginia that people were watching really closely. So ultimately, the Republican Party will have 11 Latino House members. Democrats will have 35. That's 11% of Congress, which is lower than the 19% of the Latino population in the U.S. So, I mean, it's moving, but not quite to the extent that folks really thought. I guess suburban white women showed up for Republicans, so did white men and married men, I think is what I heard.
You see, we got to label everything, put everything in its little order.
The biggest fact that stuck together, I guess, was unmarried women, which you've said a lot about the Dobbs decision, who supported Democrats. And they said they voted in a big block. Unmarried white women for sure voted for Democrats. So something to watch.
Yeah, that reminds me, we should do this here in about 5 minutes. You got to hear the question that former Vice President and potential 2024 contender Mike Pence, the way a question was put to him as it relates to abortion. You got to hear this question. The answer doesn't even matter. It was the way the question was phrased. Maybe we'll do that in like 5 minutes from now.
So there's another leaker. And it's being reported, it was in the New York Times, this big breaking story that the 2014 decision involving healthcare coverage of contraception was leaked. There was a reverend who spoke to the New York Times. He said, he got the information from this lady who dined with Alito. Alito has responded and said, I didn't leak this opinion. But the Senate Judiciary Committee and the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee said, we're going to review the serious allegations of this leak. And the Reverend back then actually wrote a letter to the Chief Justice and said, hey, this got leaked to me. No one, like that never came out. No one ever found anything out. And now they're saying, we're going to investigate these serious allegations. What about the first leak? We don't even know about the first leak yet. And that was pretty serious. But hey, they're going to look into it. So, maybe we'll find something out.
And Merrick Garland's going to appoint somebody to look into Trump. Conveniently, right after he announces he's running for president. That's incredible BS. But I'm wondering, is it feasible, like a Supreme Court justice, go out, dinner, have a few drinks, get a little loose in the tongue? By the way, you know what me and Kagan and the rest of these, is that?
I don't think so.
All right. Coming up 5 minutes from now. You got to hear the question asked of Pence over the weekend. The way it was phrased, and it touches on a story Stephanie just gave us. That's coming up 5 minutes from now.
Ball is snapped on the near hash. Chiefs load up 3 to the left side. Mahomes crossing pattern caught. Kelsey 10-yard line, 5-yard line, touchdown! Kansas City! Will Kelsey do it to the Chargers again on a crossing pattern? A touchdown, and now Travis Kelsey, a 17-yard touchdown reception to take the lead, plus his 33rd 100-yard receiving game of his career, the most by a tight end in National Football League history.
Oh, yeah, and Chiefs win, by the way. In another thriller, Sunday Night Football. Are the Chiefs just toying with us? Patrick and Travis out there like, hey, man, let's just kind of half-ass it, and then when we get to late in the fourth quarter, because it seems like it happens a lot, let's just play around a little bit, and then, oh, look, it's we're great at procrastination because we perform well under. So I can relate to that. I procrastinate. I'm always waiting till the last minute, but as a result of, man, I'm good under pressure.
And you get it done. I mean, that's a sign of somebody who knows, and you know the deadlines, and you get it done before the deadline. They always seem to play well from behind, but I can tell you, and I don't think a lot of people remember him, unless they were really watching closely because they weren't on a lot of national broadcasts, except, some of the I shouldn't say lower networks, but they weren't on the big time a lot. But I do the scoreboards for Texas Tech at Learfield on Saturdays, and I did them all the years that he was the quarterback at Texas Tech. The man would have won the Heisman had they had any defense at all. His numbers should not surprise people, but that they would lose 70 to 65, some ridiculous scores like that. But he did amazing things. He actually left a year early, but no one could have predicted that he'd be able to have that kind of success. Hopefully he stays healthy. That's, he had a hit to his head a couple of years ago in a playoff game that I remember. That's something I worry about. But it's a run. You enjoy it, and you hope he stays healthy.
Were you able to stay up watch the whole thing, John? Amen, brother. And I was glad I did. The most entertaining part was Kelsey's. So San Diego scores, Los Angeles. I still have a hard time with that, man.
It's San Diego to me. It still always will be.
Yeah. It's like calling Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Wake Up Columbia or something. My favorite, so then the Chargers score, and it's like, oh, man. But here comes Travis and Patrick and the rest of the team, by the way. Pacheco over 100 yards rushing. The best part of the game, Travis scores that touchdown, and he gets into the end zone and flings that ball. Did you see those people ducking in the camera? I'm like, what are you doing, Travis? That was a little close for comfort. Chiefs now 8-2 on the season. Great game Sunday Night Football last night. Actually, a good weekend all around, I think, for Missouri sports. Mm-hmm. Men's basketball 5-0 at Mizzou. Mizzou picks up a win on Senior Day over the weekend. By the way, we were because it was going to be cold. The wind chill was going to be in the teens for our 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS Tiger Tailgate Challenge. Yeah, and I wished I could have been there to thank you for accepting our challenge, but dang, it was cold.
Whatever.
I wasn't going. It's too cold. It's too cold.
It was brutal.
I'm scared for the one on Friday. I have to work that one.
Feel Good Friday. Join Hannah. And here's what you can do. You can get onto our websites, 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com. Just go to the Tiger Tailgate. This is so cool. And these things, by the way, it's completely, it's free. You just go to places like High Noon Hard Seltzers, Culligan Mid-Missouri, Buffalo Wild Wings. We feed you free booze, all this stuff. You can go in Columbia. You can go to Club Car Wash. You Travis Kelsey, by the way, a spokesman for.
Mm-hmm. He is.
And can I play a little inside ball here? Guess where Travis Kelsey goes when he records his commercials for Club Car Wash?
I'd love to know.
Here.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because you know when something's up here at the radio station. Because when I was a ski guide, whenever somebody famous was on the hill, there was always a memo that would come out reminding you of company policy, no pictures and none of this. Well, guess what? Whenever you would get that policy on those mornings, guess what? Everybody knew there was a celebrity on the mountain that day.
We don't usually get to know that he's going to be in the building until after the fact.
To give you an idea of how big this is, like, so when Travis Kelce comes to the Zimmer Radio headquarters to record his commercials for Club Car Wash, he goes through the Stephanie Bell entrance of the building. That's how big of a deal this is there.
That's awesome.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah. Club Car Wash. You can go there. Columbia Mall location. Pick up your free passes in Jefferson City. You can do big whiskeys and other areas. Let's see, if you're like in the St. Thomas area, you can go to Speedy B's there. Just get your passes. They are free. Good morning and welcome into the show. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
Great to have you with us.
There's John Marsh. That's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. You sound excellent, by the way. Glad you're back. Glad you are. Glad you're feeling better.
Back among the living.
Yes.
Yeah, you sound much better. How do you feel?
I'm like 90% better.
I was chatting with the nurse yesterday at the gym. He's probably actually doing more. I stepped way out of my comfort zone. Was actually flirting, and she probably knew it. But she's a nurse.
Isn't that like the one?
Yeah.
Isn't that like the one place you're not supposed to approach people?
So here's the thing.
It's like a no-no, I'm pretty sure.
She talked to me first. I was like, whoa, what's this? Because that doesn't ever happen. Women never come up.
Did you like butt in line at the machine or something? Right.
She was coming to lambaste me as a nurse. You know you're supposed to wipe down the equipment. No, she was standing there, as a lot of us do in the gym, just on her phone, texting and stuff, and I kept trying to get this thing to get to my water, and after several passes, she finally says to me, she says, I guess I could get out of your way. And I said, but then if you did that, you wouldn't be able to flirt with me.
Oh, gross.
Yikes.
In like 10 minutes.
Oh.
It was an incredible conversation.
Did you get her phone number?
No, I can't. I can't do that kind of stuff. I'm too shy. I don't have the confidence for something like that. But we had a great conversation. She is a nurse, and she was talking about RSV. But the more interesting thing I thought was she was talking about what it's been like, because she was talking about how her schedule over almost 3 years now has been kind of, insane, and she's starting to get back on track, get to the gym, just all this stuff. But I was asking her what was that like as a nurse here in mid-Missouri on the front lines, as we say, and she said, and she didn't know I'm politically inclined or anything like that. She said the number of people that would come in while they're hooking them up to respirators to help them breathe, that would start saying, "This isn't real."
Wow.
Like, really? Oh my, that is embarrassing for conservatives like me.
It is real, and it's a scary situation.
So we were talking about that. So now there's a couple of, and this isn't the FDA, this isn't Fox News, but at least two of the companies, I think, that make vaccines are going, hey, some of those vaccines, especially we might have an issue with some of these as it relates to myocarditis. And wasn't there people like a year and a half ago saying, hey, do we want to push this stuff out? And now it's the actual manufacturers. It's not like the FDA. It's not Fox News. It's the actual manufacturers. So, yeah, we might want to look at that. We might want to look at that stuff again.
Told you.
So, duh. The other thing I think is interesting, and a listener brought this up last week via text 874-9390. You can always get us on text 874-9390. We spent 3 years telling people wash your hands, don't go out anywhere, do this. And now all of a sudden we're getting ticked because now do we have weakened immune systems because we've been so careful to be so clean and not do anything to put ourselves at risks for 3 years. City of Columbia. Before I do want to get into, Mike Pence was asked about abortion. But the way the question was worded, my goodness, the twist on it. It's Chuck Todd from MSNBC, like a gymnast trying to work in some crap on this question. I want to do that, but there's a beauty supply company, AQ Beauty Supply, in Columbia. The owner is David Chim, and he's having to shut down. Now, he did, and I want to be honest here, but he tried shutting down several years ago because he's also got a store in Atlanta. The travel was getting to him. He said, no, I'm going to stay open. And then the city of Columbia, what they did to this guy and businesses all around, And he was citing that's part of the reason I got to shut. He said I tried to stay open and people weren't coming to my store.
Problem is, that 3 months later is pandemic coming.
So the pandemic came in, and it wasn't the pandemic that shut this dude down. It wasn't the pandemic that did that. It was servants in the city of Columbia. They did it. So now, city of Columbia, they have a Christmas gift. I hope they open it. I keep telling them this money that they want to throw, the pandemic relief money, they want to give it. They want to buy a mobile homeless shower and take it around town and spray the homeless people down. That's a true story, by the way. They really do. That's who the pandemic money needs to go to. They don't need to give. That's the idiocy of leadership, progressive, liberal leadership. We'll take this money instead of giving it to people actually affected by our stupid decisions. Let's buy a mobile shower and go spray the homeless people down. Give the money to this guy, the guy that you screwed, and all the other businesses, by the way, that had to close. Also, this guy, you know what he's doing with whatever he does. So he sells like wigs and eyelashes, all these beauty supply products. Guy, he's selling everything for like 50% off, and then whatever he doesn't sell, he's donating to cancer survivors, the wigs and the eyelashes. Man, what a cool thing to do. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We've introduced everybody. Now let me introduce MSNBC's Chuck Todd, chatting with Pence over the weekend. Pence, of course, a lot of folks talking. A bunch of Republicans getting together over the weekend. And I think there were 10 people, and it was Las Vegas, some kind of conference call, at least 10 of them that have been talks regarding a potential presidential run. Check out the question regarding abortion and the way it's posed to Mike Pence.
Are you comfortable with the idea of essentially government-mandated pregnancy?
He's trying to say, hey, if you don't believe, if you're against abortion, that's government-mandated pregnancy. That is incredibly asinine. Not government you did the deed. Nobody mandated that you did that. You didn't use precautions, whatever. Just incredibly foul that you could pose a question that way. Meanwhile, Dems, who are they going to try? So Joe turns 80 over the weekend. 80 years old. Turns 80. Texas Dems are saying, hey, how about a celebrity candidate? One of those celebrity candidates? Who's that? I can tell by Hannah's puppy dog look on her face.
I have no idea.
Well, you may not be too far from the truth. I will tell you this. There's talk that he might might make a Democratic presidential run in 2024. Who is that? We're going to find out 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning. Did you figure it out yet, Hannah?
No.
I have no idea who that is.
Mara Shushed. So this, and here's what's notable of whoever's... that's actually, I think, kind of a good guess, but there's talk that this guy might be one of the people in 2024, and there's going to be a flurry of them as Joe turns 80 over the weekend, and people realize, even on the Democrat side, like, man, we cannot put Joe Biden forward when he's 82 years old. We can't do it even if he makes it to that to 2024. No way we can do that. So there's talk in Texas, hey, what about a celebrity Democrat? That celebrity, that's Matthew McConaughey.
What?
He's singing, I think, about a Texas basketball team, so he's from Texas. And there's a lot of talk in Texas. Democrats, another poll showing a couple of weeks ago in the midterms, and there's like nobody left on the bench. Like they're looking down there, John. There is no more Rex Hudler. There's nobody at the end of that bench.
Are you talking?
All right.
Are you talking about in Missouri for Democrats?
No, in Texas.
Yeah.
They're saying, hey, how about a celebrity candidate? Because that's all we got at this point.
They didn't fare very well. I mean, really, in the midterms, you're like Dr. Oz was like, a TV guy. I mean, on our side, Carrie Lake was a TV gal, other than Mark Alford. I thought maybe this is where we're going. You've got to have, some sort of TV personality to win. Maybe it'll work better for the Democrats, but I don't see Matthew McConaughey being a great elected official.
Well, former Auburn football coach Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator. J.D. Vance, of course, the author, and I had that movie, Hillbilly.
There's a difference between writing a book and being an author and having a really great life story and being Dr. Oz or Matthew McConaughey. And also sports. I mean, sports takes discipline, heart to get to the head coaching position or to really advance to the level that some of these folks had. I mean, it takes discipline and hard work. I guess Matthew McConaughey's probably worked hard, but, for some people, I think it probably just takes good looks.
Herschel Walker and how he's doing in Georgia, 15 days away from that runoff. And I think, John, what a lot of folks forget, because obviously when Trump announced he was running in 2015, and every time a celebrity, whether it's a J.D. Vance, Herschel Walker, anybody like that, anytime somebody comes forward, we don't need celebrities running for office, people forget that who is widely regarded as one of the greatest presidents in the history of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan, was a celebrity when he ran for office.
True. But do you think the kinds of celebrities we have these days are the kinds of celebrities that existed?
2024.
Exactly. It's a different kind of celebrity. These are like influencer type celebrities. Give me a break.
Coming up a little bit later, Chief Geoff Jones, Columbia Police Department. This is really interesting, this story that has been brewing for a while now, especially after the Missourian last week. They posted posted a letter to the editor from December Harmon, and it was I saw it was like, this is BS. This is almost like factually inaccurate. It was talking about this, calling FUSUS a surveillance system. It is not a surveillance system. This is coming up. City Council tonight, valuable tool to help fight crime, the backlash against it. Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones is joining us on the show. 7:35, Congressman-elect Mark Alford last week in D.C. for orientation. What happens at orientation? He's here at 7:35.
We have access to the basic city cameras, ones at intersections with the stoplights, those sorts of cameras. Otherwise, when it comes to obtaining footage, we have to get out there and canvass an area. FUSUS would be a game changer as far as investigations go and being able to access those materials.
That's Christian Tabak, Columbia Police Department, chatting with our news buds over there at ABC 17, explaining FUSUS. This is coming up in the City Council meeting tonight. It's going to be a vote. We'll find out the fate of this. And before, by the way, Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones joining us in studio to talk about this, to clear up some. As a matter of fact, local news outlet recently was picking them as one of our losers of the week for posting a letter to the editor that was just filled with inaccuracies. I was shocked that they even printed it. We were picking them as one of our losers on the week this past Feel Good Friday. And then right before we did so, they issued a clarification. But this is mall manager. This guy is the manager of Columbia Mall. His name is Rusty Strautman. And he went to, we have these public meetings where you can go and get information on things. And I thought what he said afterwards, I thought, man, this is why we do these things. This is how it works.
I think the transparency of the police department showing us how the procedure or how the policy is being done, I think helped a lot just to reassure us that what they're saying is going to be delivered.
So I appreciate that guy. He's going to a meeting, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pass judgment. Let me go and hear what it's about, heard what it's about. I'm like, yeah, I am on board with this. Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones joining us. So bottom line, I know we've covered it before, but as evidenced by the Columbia Missourian posting this letter from December, Harmon, there's still a lot of people that they have no concept, really, of what this is, or the completely inaccurate concept. What is FUSUS?
So FUSUS is a platform that allows us to take video feeds that are already out in the community and bring them onto one platform. And let me clarify that a little bit. So business cameras that are already publicly or facing public spaces where you have no expectation of privacy, right? You know that when you walk into the mall, you're going to be on camera. You know that when you walk downtown, you're going to be on camera. When you walk into any business that's a public space, you know you're going to be on camera, right?
And ACLU, by the way, over the years, they fought really hard to say, listen, when you're out in public, you have very limited reasons or very limited expectations of privacy. I think one of the things a lot of folks could agree with the ACLU on.
Yeah. So we don't want anything that's in a private space. And we're not looking to expand cameras. But what we are looking to do with this system is take all those feeds that are in public spaces and give us the ability to access those. And the levels of access are all voluntary. Whether you participate or not is all voluntary. So business cameras in a public space, the business can choose to just be on a registry. So they're not going to give us access to their cameras, and they can say, if something happens here, contact me. They can say, yeah, we want to give you access to our cameras, but only stuff that's been pre-recorded. We don't want to give you live access. Or they can say, hey, if an event happens, we want to give you live access during an event. Or they can say, we just want to give you live access.
So it could be, the live access thing, two different things happening there. One, you could get consistent live access. Or number two, hey, if something goes down, now you have live access.
Right.
Okay. And then, because this is, and I guess that's one of the ways I look at it. Number one, it's a way to help law enforcement. People, especially all these, they complain about, the crime downtown. Here's a beautiful tool to help at least help let the public know, listen, if you commit a crime downtown, there's a good chance now we've got more tools that we could get you. And then they freak out about that. But when you go to businesses afterwards and say, hey, could we see your footage from Saturday night downtown? Do they legally have to, because you're getting it after the fact where FUSUS could potentially allow you to get it in real-time stuff, do they legally have to give you access to those to the footage?
It's their property.
Okay.
So
even after the fact,
right?
Do you usually, can you tell us a recent case or two offhand where video surveillance has helped solve a crime or helped get you more information?
Sure. Our last homicide was on video. Mm-hmm. The one up off of Blue Ridge came from a residential camera.
Okay.
So before we go down that path, can I talk about residential cameras?
You sure can.
So this is where some of the misinformation comes in. To have a business camera that is accessible by the police
or by FUSUS, you'll have to purchase a core or be given a core. We're going to get some if we get this passed, so that we can give them to businesses that may not be able to afford them. They're a couple $100 for a 4-camera core. But you have to have that core for us to access it. If you don't have that appliance, we can't access your camera, just like it is now. Residential cameras, we won't provide people with cores. We won't allow them to purchase them for residential cameras. And Ring cameras are closed-loop systems that couldn't be put through the core anyway. So we can't tap in, people say tap into a camera in a residential setting. So if it's your home, we can't tap into your cameras. If you don't have the appliance, we can't see your cameras, even if you want us to. But what we can do is put you on a registry, send you an email or a text that says, hey, something happened. We're looking for this kind of car at this time. Can you check your camera? You look at your own camera on your own system, whatever that is, download a clip of it, just like people put on Nextdoor and Facebook and everything else, and you send that through the secure link. We don't access home cameras.
I know was it last Friday you spoke with the Boone County Mule Skinners. Want to ask how that goes. But also we have people like City Councilwoman Pat Fowler, not a big fan of hers, as I see her in city council meetings for various reasons. But one of the things that she has brought up is certain demographics that could potentially be targeted by this.
There are public defenders and juvenile public defenders who will have opinions about whether or not our policies are fair to their clients or to folks of a certain demographic.
To folks of a certain demographic, some people might have some questions, is what I hear. This is targeting black people. This is unfair. I'm guessing it's an issue that you've dealt with several times as we've been talking about FUSUS. When people will say, well, it's race, it's going after black people. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think it's a legitimate fear anytime that we're using cameras and people think that we're doing general surveillance. So I appreciate the concern and I appreciate the question. I think that FUSUS does just the opposite. Let me explain why. So right now, if you call and you describe me, this guy in his early 30s, driving a black and white car, just robbed a bank. And we go over and we look for black and white cars that just robbed a bank. Black and white's not a good example. Let's say it's a black car. Black car just robbed a bank, white guy, early 30s. When we go in the area of that bank, within several block radius of that bank, we're going to stop every black car driven by a white male in their early 30s. If we have a picture or a video of the person in the car wearing the clothes, we're going to stop that person. So we're not adversely impacting all of these other people who are getting stopped because they match some general description given by somebody who was under stress when they saw it. We know that witness identifications are pretty unreliable a lot of the time. So when we have a picture of the person in the car, it reduces the likelihood that we're just going to pick people of a certain race or gender or vehicle type. I mean, it's the person in the car. So I think it's unlikely that could occur, very unlikely.
So when Pat Fowler says people of a certain demographic, she means people that might fit descriptions in an area where a potential crime was committed. Maybe that's what she was trying to say. Welcome to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones joining us tonight. City Council takes up the FUSUS system.
Thank you so much, Branden. Chief, we appreciate you joining us live in studio. Technically, there are two issues before the City Council tonight. One would appropriate federal asset forfeiture funds to purchase them. The other would authorize an agreement with FUSUS. I just want to clarify that. That's just a technicality, but there are two scheduled votes tonight. We know, and Branden hinted at Councilwoman Fowler, Councilman Lovelady has also had some concerns about FUSUS, and we don't know how they'll vote tonight. But it looks like it could be a vote. It could come down to the mayor. I don't know. What's your sense on this? How do you think this vote's going to go? Assuming they vote, they could table it as well. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, I doubt that they'll table it. It's hard to tell how the vote will go, and I appreciate the process. You want people to advocate for their constituency and also advocate for the city as a whole. So if people have questions, I would expect as a citizen, my council person to ask questions, and I appreciate that process. I don't know how they'll vote, but either way, they have the information. I'm looking at all of this paper you have in front of you. I'd say that you've seen that we have put out a lot of written material with everybody's questions and answers and all of this stuff.
Kudos to Halsworth for being prepared.
He is prepared.
Literally, it's report after report, and you went into detail into it, and I read everything you had there. But in the end, ultimately it's up to tonight.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
I am hearing for the vast majority of the businesses I've spoken to, they're in support of this program. I've heard a few that are concerned, but very few. I can only think of 2 or 3. But overall, people have been very supportive and are interested in the product.
I think it's because it's here's a tool to help. We talk. Listen, one of the biggest issues we constantly talk about, besides the economy, it's personal safety, and that is nationwide. It's personal safety. Here's something that can at least help solve crimes, help get more information, at least give you more information, maybe somewhat of a deterrent for some folks. Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones and Friday Columbia or Boone County Mule Skinners. How did that go? Presentation on this. How did that go?
Well, they have good questions, but I want to just reiterate, we're not accessing things that we don't have access to already. It's just sometimes it takes us hours, days, even weeks to get a video from a business. You go to a gas station at night, and that person doesn't know how to use the video system. You may come back and have to get it the next day or whatever. And then after you go through all these hoops to get the video, you get it back to the station, you may not have a player to play it. So then we're trying to download a player to play it. This takes care of all of that and makes us more efficient.
So what's the timing on implementation? Say the city council goes ahead and approves it, you got to get the equipment, and then, say a business is interested and does want to get into the system. How does that all work, and when can we expect it to be fully up and running?
I'm going to estimate about 90 days. The reason I say that is we would have to we need to be trained, right? I'm not trained on the system. I've seen enough presentations. I feel pretty comfortable with how it works and what it does, but I can't use it. So we'll have to be trained, and then we have to come through a procedure. We have an overall broader policy, but we'd want to really screw that down so that we knew who was auditing, who, was making sure that we were using this and being accountable to the public for it. And then we have to get all of that hardware out, do the outreach, and get it turned on. So I'd say probably about 90 days.
Anything else that you want to add before we let you go?
No, I just look at the information that's there. Look at the printed material. It's all out there on the council agendas. If you have questions, ask, but we're really trying to be transparent, answer the questions the best we can. The vendor is flying in either last night or today, but they'll be there tonight so that they can answer questions. We just want everybody to know what it does and know that we're here to do it responsibly.
The process. Let's talk about it. Here's the information. Make a decision based on the information, not on what December Harmon writes to the Columbia Missourian. I'd love to ask you your reaction when you saw. I was shocked at what the Missourian would even post that and then offer a correction. Final question before we let you go. How long has it been since you've been in your early 30s?
It's been a while.
Okay. Columbia Police Chief Geoff Jones, as always, if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up 5 minutes from now, well, we'll do it about 7:25-ish.
I found a list of baby names that are falling in popularity, and Stephanie might disagree with one of them.
Check that out. It's What's Hot with Hannah. morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
It's usually about this time of year we start seeing lists from 2022. And I found a baby name list for this year, and it's ranking some of the names that are losing popularity the fastest. And Stephanie, you might be surprised to find out that Elon is one of the most fallen names of 2022.
Really?
Yeah, it fell like 460 some spots on the popularity list for baby boys.
Who was naming their kid Elon before that?
Thank you. That was I've never met an Elon in real life, I don't think.
Another name that's falling in popularity is Kanye. Which, again, why would you name your child Kanye?
Like, okay, is there anybody still naming their kids Kanye, Elon, or like Adolf?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Jada is another name that is falling in popularity, which, I don't know. Like, those are names that are kind of weird anyways. I was surprised at how popular they are.
I'm not surprised, though, and you haven't gone through this, but when you make a list and you go through it with your significant other, it's not about which names you like the most. It's which names you know someone that you're like, no. And I assume some of these, like Elon, Kanye, people are like, no.
It's an awfully selfish name. Awfully selfish thing, I think it is, to name your unborn. I think your kid, when they turn age 12, they should have a legal right to pick their own name.
Kind of what you did, right?
Just about, yeah. Just about. Because you're giving this child a name. I don't know.
It feels monumental when you're trying to do it.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Coming up, Congressman-elect Mark Alford is here. I don't know that we'll get into politics as much as, so now that you're in Congress, he was doing orientation last week. Where's the bathrooms? Where do you go and where's the coffee? And how does this work? And when's payday? How do all these things work? We're covering that. He's here 5 minutes from now.
Millions of followers of Donald Trump are waiting right now to see if the former president is returning to Twitter.
I'm happy that Elon Musk has said Trump can go back to Twitter. I am not on Twitter, sitting here hitting the keyboard, waiting for that moment that if he does indeed get back on and tweet. I don't know if that's happening. I think what's been really interesting about that is the response from people over the weekend, people especially taking to Twitter to criticize Twitter, which is a free social media platform that millions and millions, I don't know, maybe billions of people worldwide utilize it. People get on there to criticize it. It is a free service. It just blows me away. Welcome into the show is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. By the way, coming up 8:10, Michael Ryan, HeartlanderNews.com, did an interesting article. Biden administration still out to censor its critics on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, things like that. And that's according to Missouri Senator. That's according to Josh Hawley. Excellent article. Join us at 8:10. Michael Ryan is going to be here. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah. I am Branden Rathert. Want to welcome in Congressman-elect Mark Alford. Mr. Alford, welcome to the show. Glad you could be here.
Thank you.
So you did, here's what I don't even know if I want to talk politics this morning because we pretty much
okay.
Well, you know what it's Stephanie and I have this joke. Well, I have this joke that kind of like the Friday before Thanksgiving. Like a lot of folks' mindset, we're gone. We're already gone, even though it's just the Friday before Thanksgiving. And I have proved that theory by my performance here on the show this morning incredibly. We'll put that in the loss column today. Maybe tomorrow we'll come back with the win. So Stephanie and I have this joke because Stephanie never checks out. I've been checked out since Friday, and that's not true. But I wanted to. So I don't know if I want to talk politics. I want to talk orientation because here's the stuff I'm fascinated by. You know, you think about this. You run for office, you campaign, you do all this incredible stuff. You get Trump calling you on the day prior to the election, all these things. You travel to the 4th Congressional District of Missouri, and you make media appearances, and then you win, and then you got to go actually do the job now, which is a massive undertaking. But you got to know, like, where the bathroom and the coffee makers are. Doing orientation last week. So let me ask, so how does the orientation work? And maybe I'm nerding out about this. And if so, somebody tell me and we'll talk about something else. But, like, how does this work?
Well, thank goodness. Good to see you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank goodness I hired the best chief of staff I could find about a month ago. His name's Mike Martin. He's the deputy chief currently for Ronnie Jackson out of Texas, so he knows the ropes. Each person is allowed to hire up to 2 people to help get you through this process, and I hired Mike to be my main guide. I forgot the exact title for that, but so he really deals with all the technical stuff, setting it up. He was with me every step of the way this last week. We flew into D.C. last Sunday, a week ago. My daughter had just gotten married on Saturday, so it was a very hectic week for our family. But we flew in to D.C. Sunday, woke up early Monday morning, had a full schedule. We meet as an entire freshman class for some of the sessions, and then most of the sessions were broken up for the different Republican and Democrat conferences. We met in the Congressional Auditorium. But finding your way around the Capitol is no easy feat. I'd been there once before, but it's like a labyrinth, a maze of different rooms. And once you get this member-elect lanyard that they give you, you can go pretty much anywhere you want to in the Capitol building. So as just for fun, I had a couple of hours free on last Friday before our last session. I woke up early. I'm used to getting up early. I went to the Capitol at 8, and I just wandered around every nook and cranny I could for 2 hours. I talked to as many Capitol police officers as I could, shook their hands, trying to get to know them, some of the people behind the scenes in the different leaders' office, and just getting coffee and chatting with people. When you first get there, though, they bombard you with all this information. I've got several books here that I'm studying this morning. One is our 118th Congressional Briefing book. It's 243 pages. The new member orientation. It's over 100 pages. The Law Enforcement Coordinator Handbook, that's 100 pages. So all this information that we have to really absorb and learn We have this week off, going to spend Thanksgiving with the family, and then we go back next week for follow-up. We pick our offices of the 3 office buildings that are there for the House members. Whatever's left over that the current members don't choose, and we get to go into a lottery to get that. And it's just an exciting time, learning, absorbing, and listening.
Sounds like you're going to spend your Thanksgiving reading a lot of pages. Now, when I envision all of you going to the Capitol and, and doing this new member orientation, I almost envision like the Miss America pageant. And, there's always they're like, oh, Miss Louisiana is the best. And then there's always someone they don't like. So I wonder, like, when you start meeting up with the other, congressmen and women elect, did you make any friends? Are you looking at, are the Midwest folks kind of coalescing together? I mean, who were you talking to the most?
Well, Eric Burleson he's taken Billy Long's spot. He and his wife Angie were there, and Leslie and Angie hit it off great. Eric and I kind of had known each other before a little bit, so we spent some time together. We would have, sit at some of the same tables for dinner, and but this is the odd thing. So I met a lot of great people there from all over. Some of the people like Wesley Hunt from Houston. He's an Army veteran. Harriet Hageman, who beat Cheney up in Wyoming, she was there. Derek Van Orden from Wisconsin, who's an actor and also a Navy veteran. Just so many different people from so many different backgrounds. But there was one in particular that I really hit it off with, and he's a delegate from Guam. His name is Jim, and we're the same height, and we just hit it off, and we spent a lot of time together, get to know each other. John Duarte from Modesto, California. Let me tell you about this guy. He grows like almond trees, and he's a businessman and a farmer, and he didn't even know until Thursday, I believe, that he had won the race. So he was there the entire week. There were several candidates like that the votes were still being counted, and he knew that if he ended up losing, he was going to have to go home from this week-long orientation and not come back. Can you imagine the sweat and the turmoil and the angst in that?
Delegate from Guam. Here's where the bathrooms are. Doesn't matter. Looks like the results just came in and I lost. Our guest this morning, Mark Alford, Congressman-elect. Kind of interesting talking about the orientation process in D.C.
Yeah, Congressman Branden, thank you. Congressman-elect, we appreciate you joining us live. Kind of follow up on what Branden has mentioned here. The Republicans have nominated a man and he campaigned for you in your district, a guy named Kevin McCarthy from California, as Speaker. Two-part question, very quick questions. A, do you think he will be the Speaker of the House? And B, will you invite him to Columbia? And when I say, if he is the Speaker, and when I say that, Boehner has come when he was Speaker. He was in Jefferson City. Pelosi. I interviewed Nancy Pelosi when she came to Warrensburg. She was also in Jefferson City, but she was minority leader. And Mr. Gephardt came to Jeff City as the minority leader. But in my lifetime, we have not had, as far as I know, a Speaker of the House come to Columbia. Will you invite him to come here, sir?
We need to get him there. We need to get him to see all the great things that are going on there and with MU and their medical research and reactor there they're hoping to grow. I think that's a big part of the story of the beauty of Columbia and the beauty of the 4th Congressional District. I do believe that Kevin McCarthy will be the next Speaker of the House. Our conference voted him as such after a long debate where others were put forward their names and for consideration. We had a really healthy debate and discussion about who should be leader and why. I think what I saw in Kevin McCarthy, leader Kevin McCarthy, that a lot of people had not seen before, but I certainly see now going forward, is his ability to listen, his ability to absorb information, hear all sides of what's going on within our party, and try to build consensus. With a slim majority we're probably going to end up right at 222. I know we're hoping for a lot more than that. 218 is all we need, but it's getting everyone to 218 on these very important votes that we don't waste our majority and our power when we're in Congress. And I know that the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, will be able to do that.
All right, Kevin McCarthy also saying, hey, there's some prominent names in the Democrat Party like Omar, Adam Schiffer-Brains. They're going to be off. They're coming off of committees. Any talk on any committees that you might be going to?
Well, I think I've mentioned this before on your show. It's very important to our district that I end up on the House Armed Services Committee, given the importance of Whiteman Air Force Base and the pending arrival of the B-21 bomber that's going to be in the next couple of years, hopefully coming to Whiteman Air Force Base, and also the continued support and the prominence of Fort Leonard Wood that trained more than 80,000 Army personnel last year. We got to make sure that never ends up on the BRAC list. We support them with good housing and mental health support. And so trying to get on that, and also the Ag Committee. We have a farm bill coming up this next year, and it's going to be very important to support our farmers with the crop insurance and the things that they need in this farm bill, but also to try to get the federal government off the backs of our farmers so they can have the highest yield. And it's really a national security issue, and that's when I want to focus on those two things.
Yeah, and at the Air Force Base here in Missouri, to give you an idea, so I lived in Pensacola for several years, and anytime BRAC, base realignment and closure would come up, that's scary stuff. That would be akin to somebody saying, hey, we're going to take Mizzou out of Columbia. We're going to shut it down. That's how monumental that can be. Also, before we let you go, and I do want to cover this, so like when you're going and you're touring the hallways, and here's where this is how this works, here's where you find the restrooms. Are you doing like HR paperwork stuff too, like a new job? Like, we need your bank account number, and here's your health insurance. And now, how often, as a congressman, how often will you be paid? Is it once a month, twice a month?
We don't get starting paid until January 3rd, and I think it's every 2 weeks that we get paid. Leslie went with me, and so when we were in with the HR person there at the house, they don't call them that, but she was listening very intently on this, especially since I haven't had a job for 14 months. So she was listening intently on that. We signed up for the different things that are, beneficial for a congressperson. One of the big surprises is, everyone has this misconception that when you retire from Congress, that you leave with full benefits, full pay. That is not the case. It's all public record of what you get. It's not like a full retirement plan. So if people have that misnomer, that misconception, maybe we can help change that. I do want to say one last thing, though. Yeah. The most moving moment for me was when I went out on the House floor the very first time on Monday afternoon. They took us all out there, and I started to tear up a little bit, standing there where FDR had once stood, where Ronald Reagan had once stood, where President Trump had once stood, and knowing the magnitude, the significance of this place where I can be a voice for the 4th Congressional District. I was just so honored and humbled that the voters sent me there, and I'm going to do everything I can to show them that I'm the right person for this job.
I know it's a serious job, but I can't wait for the hazing to begin. Congressman-elect Mark Alford, 4th Congressional District, talking about orientation. Thank you so much. Of course, anything we can do to help you serve your constituency, let us know. Coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we have found something that MS
I think they're funny. They're hilarious.
And it makes you look at it.
It's very entertaining, but it's very informative at the same time.
For me, they're pretty funny. Like, I like the entertainment on the road.
That's people in New Jersey. New Jersey, a judge has said, hey, and we see this, man, anytime you drive along 70, and sometimes they've got some of the really good ones along 63 and 54 and 50, but those, the MoDOT electronic reader boards, they get, they have some of the cute sayings sometimes, like, don't, your butts belong in the car. Not on the road to imply, like cigarette butts, and they're cute and they're funny. Several years ago, we even had some of the folks that write for MoDOT, that write those creative electronic reader board sign, had some of the folks on the show. Well, a judge in New Jersey has said you can't do that anymore. Basically, part of it is it's too distracting to people. So I reached out to Adam Pulley with MoDOT. I'm like, oh, man, this is one of the few pleasures I have in making that drive to my dad's house along I-70 in St. Louis are those cute signs. He says, nope, there is nothing on the horizon that would dictate that we're going to stop doing what we are doing here. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Speaking of tobacco, you were talking about butts, and growing up, like, cigarettes were just like part of everyday life. You saw them everywhere. And I forget how quickly the things have transitioned. And we were on the road and we were actually parked at an Aldi, and there was a tobacco shop. And my daughter looks up and she goes, Mom, what's tobacco? And without missing a beat, and my son didn't see the sign, he goes, it was a cash crop relied on heavily by early settlers. Because he started to open his mouth, and I thought, oh gosh, what's he going to say? What tobacco? I didn't know. And I was like, well, great, moving on.
By the way, you got to hear a letter to Santa that one of Stephanie Bell's kids wrote.
It's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it's not from the kid that has that incredibly historically accurate depiction of what tobacco is. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And thank you for joining us over the weekend at our Tiger Tailgate. Another one coming up, Black Friday game. Go to our websites, 939theeagle.com and kwos.com, Buffalo Wild Wings. Call again at Mid-Missouri. Bud Light, High Noon, Hard Seltzers, free food and drink for Friday's Black Friday game. You can get passes by going to Big O Tires in Columbia and in Jefferson City. And if you're in Mexico, you can go to Graff & Sons. So Friday, and I love this. As a matter of fact, Bill Maher covered this Friday on his Friday night show. You have a rule in the media. If you want something to go under the radar, you drop it on a Friday. It slowly roasts over the weekend. By the time you get to Monday, a lot of folks have forgotten about it or they don't cover it. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointing a special counsel to investigate Trump. Pence doing some interviews over the weekend saying it's BS. But, of course, we can go to Elie Mystal, MSNBC. Wonder what his take is.
There is not a single argument that I have heard in defense of Merrick Garland's self-serving, pearl-clutching press conference that he gave this morning that answers the critical question. If he was going to do this, if he believes this is in the public interest, then why didn't he believe that was in the public interest 18 months ago?
It's so blatant. Yeah, so he announces one day he's running for president, and then just days later, we're going to investigate him.
The question is, did Trump know, and is that why he announced early?
Boom. Coming up, 8:10, great article, Heartlander News, regarding the Biden administration trying to censor folks on social media. Michael Ryan, who wrote this article for the HeartlanderNews.com, he's joining us coming up at 8:10.
say quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious.
Remember that from Nina Jankowicz?
It's how you hide a little lie, little lie. It's how you hide a little lie, little lie. It's how you
So
hide
remember
a
the
little
federal
lie,
government, they were going to come out with a disinformation board, kind of almost a ministry of truth, and it had that kind of icky imperialistic feel to it. And they introduced it, or tried to introduce it, with a Mary Poppins song, Nina Jankowicz. Even on the rare occasion our longtime news director, Halsworth, laughs, is when we're talking about the feds singing Mary Poppins tunes to introduce something that has the potential to be pretty serious.
Exactly. It was a disaster, by the way. It was a disaster.
Yeah. But apparently, they are still trying to do that. They're just calling it something different. I want to bring in Michael Ryan. He writes for the HeartlanderNews.com. HeartlanderNews.com. Michael Ryan has been chatting with folks like Josh Hawley as it relates to, in effect, censorship on Facebook. Michael, we want to welcome you in. So you have been talking to one of our U.S. senators, Josh Hawley. It sounds like this disinformation board, it's still happening, but more covertly. Kind of bottom line this for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's kind of a whack-a-mole thing. You know, after they disbanded the government disinformation board, then they just kind of seemed to transfer the censorship duties to the Department of Homeland Security, other areas, according to Hawley. And in fact, recently The Intercept reported that DHS is, quote, quietly broadening its efforts to curb speech, end quote. And they had all kinds of internal DHS memos, emails, documents that are obtained through leaks in a lawsuit, and even public documents to prove their case, which they said is an expansive effort by DHS to curb political speech on social media. You know, Hawley's been all over this. I mean, he's written Mayorkas almost half a dozen letters about this. He told him in a letter last week that Mayorkas had, quote, transformed the Department of Homeland Security into an engine to suppress the freedom of speech, end quote. So, you know, and here's the other thing. Outgoing Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt has joined with the AG in Louisiana to sue about this, to have this effort declared a violation of the First Amendment. So, you know, if it weren't for officials from Missouri, this might not even be a topic.
And I think it's fascinating, by the way, that people like Alejandro Mayorkas, he wants to be in charge of what the truth is, and yet every week Alejandro Mayorkas is saying, border secure. It's good. It's just incredibly hypocritical. So in your conversations with Josh Hawley, and by the way, as you have written on HeartlanderNews.com, great publication, HeartlanderNews.com, kind of a couple of things that, as you've been talking with Mr. Hawley, that you hear him say that you go, whoa. I mean, your reporter and journalistic cred aside, that when Josh Hawley is telling you what he's getting at, you're going, whoa, what the heck is this? What are some surprising things you have found?
I think just the fact that it's being acknowledged at this high level in our government. You know, I can tell you, and you can probably tell me, that most of my conservative friends have felt that their posts on social media have been censored, that they've been put in Facebook jail and so forth. But to have a U.S. senator say this is going on, I mean, just an ordinary citizen looks at that and says, you know, if a senator can't do anything about it, what can be done about it? It's just an amazing situation.
Has anybody seen, and Facebook does, and I don't know how they do their things. I know our video feed here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we get kicked off from time to time. And those times are usually when Congressman Billy Long is on the show. Facebook kicks off our video feed. But I saw one that several people, as a matter of fact, the star of the Gary Nolan show here, Brian Hansen, was showing me this post been going around, and it's a Facebook post that is like, I am God, trust or something. And it's, yes. Have you seen this?
Yes. I posted it myself just to see what would happen. And they had one of those screens covered up saying, you know, this is graphic or, you know, violent content.
gosh. So what is the
It was
post?
a Bible verse.
It's a Bible verse, and people apparently are posting it, and it covers it up like there's obscene content or something, like we're looking at Kim Kardashian's naked rear end or something. And has anybody, and I kind of feel like this ties into your article on the Heartlander News, has anybody been able to figure out what that is about, that specific post?
No, I haven't heard anything. It's just amazing to me. I don't know. I also noticed that when I text somebody about God, it doesn't give it the proper noun. So, it doesn't automatically capitalize God. So I don't know what's up with that. But, it's like you said, this isn't a figment of one's imagination.
Yeah.
There was a case in St. Louis earlier this year where a radio station had a conservative on just talking about a poll that said 50% of Americans believe cheating changed the 2020 presidential election. That radio station was deplatformed on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that's our friends, I think, Christopher Arp, News Talk St. Louis. Yeah, Christopher Arp, he's joins us every Tuesday here on the show. We've been booted off when people like Congressman Billy Long will mention things like that. It's crazy. Our guest, Michael Ryan, HeartlanderNews.com, article called Biden Administration Still Out to Censor Its Critics on Social Media.
So having studied and researched and talked to folks in this space, what are conservatives saying now that Elon Musk has gotten a hold of Twitter? I think a lot of, especially the libertarian perspective is, we don't need more government. We don't need to send more letters. We just need to let the market correct this. And it seems like, this weekend, Elon's letting people back on. So what's their response to just letting the market play out?
Other than hallelujah? I mean, that seems to be the solution. Get control of the platforms. Otherwise, there's a limited number of things that can be done. I mean, and again, the Missouri officials are trying to do it. I asked Senator Hawley, what can be done about this? He suggested three things off the bat. Number one, defund portions of DHS to stop them from doing the whack-a-mole kind of censorship that they're doing now. Number two, take away their federal authorities to do this kind of thing. And number three, as he said before, to impeach Mayorkas. Now, the courts seem to be a pretty good area to attack this, too. There's a federal court that has upheld a Texas law that bars social media companies from taking down posts based on political view, and that's probably going to end up in the Supreme Court. And then there's the lawsuit by Eric Schmidt and the Louisiana AG. They have found just a treasure trove of documents pointing to collusion between the Biden administration and social media companies. The other thing that can be done is that Congress, if it wanted to, could take another look at Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which basically provides big tech community for removal of content.
Let me ask you this, and this is kind of related, not related to your article in the HeartlanderNews.com, but more curious, do you ever encounter, so here's the thing that I encounter sometimes, Michael, like I'm doing research or whatever on a story that's not favorable to the administration, that's not favorable to progressive liberals, and I'm like, I know the story's there, and it can be exceedingly difficult to find online. Is that just me, or has anybody else experienced that?
No, it's not just you.
Okay.
I have encountered that for years, looking up a subject matter to perhaps editorialize in a column on some subject from a center-right point of view, and all that comes up on Google is the left-wing point of view on the topic. And in fact, Senator Hawley's been on that too, because Google has been found to have their thumb on the scale of searches.
Yeah, or the other thing that'll happen, I'll be like, hey, what did Kamala Harris say this weekend regarding climate change? And Google will pop back, did you want the recipe for banana nut bread? Like, no, I'm glad to know that it's not just me.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine years and years ago before the internet? I mean, can you imagine a librarian trying to block you from the aisle that you want to go down?
Yeah.
This is basically what Google's trying to do.
All right. Our guest, Michael Ryan, HeartlanderNews.com. Article he spoke with Senator Josh Hawley regarding the administration of the United States of America still wanting to censor social media.
Yeah, it has. They've created a monster. Now, the Communications Decency Act of '96 was basically an attempt to regulate pornography on the internet, but it also provides big tech immunity for removal of content. Now, the provisions to prevent pornography have been struck down by the courts, but perversely, big tech's ability to censor you and me lives on.
All right, Michael Ryan, anything else that you want to add to this before? Oh, did you see the Chiefs last night?
Yeah.
Man.
Never give up.
Right on.
Never, ever.
Yeah, I always feel like they're toying with us sometimes. Michael Ryan, HeartlanderNews.com. By the way, give a kind of a brief description of exactly what HeartlanderNews.com, because I look at it and I'm like, okay, it's news for us Heartlanders. It's through a conservative lens at least, but I feel like even that's not doing it justice. You're on an elevator and you're hanging out with producer Hannah. You've got 15 seconds. What's the elevator pitch on this?
Yeah, HeartlanderNews.com is a fairly new news site covering Missouri and Kansas. A lot of Missouri news, everything from crime to politics, and when the two marry up. And it's from a center right point of view, which is, we think it's just news, and it stands in stark contrast to what's being peddled as news in other media outlets. And I think we're the only outlet in the two-state area doing this.
All right. 29 seconds, by the way. Michael Ryan. Hey, man, it's good to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Coming up, we're going to do the Morning Bell business news, a little twist. Only Stephanie Bell gets. Do we have time to share a letter to Santa?
Sure.
Or you want to do it later? You want to do it at 8:35?
No, we can totally do it. And we can do some interesting facts about the holiday season and our shopping trends coming up.
Yeah, and by the way, coming up 8:35. So I was chatting with my dad over the weekend, and he was saying, man, I paid $59 for a turkey. And I said, how much did that turkey weigh? It was a hefty turkey. And then, incidentally, if you go to Missouri Farm Bureau's website, there is facts, proof, numbers that so far Mayorkas and Biden haven't gotten to yet. Talks about the incredible increase in the cost of Thanksgiving. We're going to do that. Morning Bell coming up 5 minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Hey, you, it's 8:26 time for the Morning Bell. Business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that holiday shoppers are buying fewer gifts and donating less to charity this year. Something we kind of knew with as expensive as everything is, but it's pretty significant. So there's a crowdfunding platform called Kiva, and they surveyed 2,000 Americans, and they said lack of funds is why they don't plan on giving to charity as much as they did last year. And Giving Tuesday, which is coming up after Black Friday, they usually celebrate Giving Tuesday. And there's a group there that said fundraising is down a whole bunch. There's a graph, and it says change in number of donors from a year earlier, that right now we're down like 10-12% in number of donors just donating to charity. And they also said that the asks from these charitable organizations are actually up pretty significantly, almost 25%. And so while people are demanding more from our local, especially some of our local organizations, and they need the help, we're not, stepping up and giving. So I would encourage folks, if you have the means, let's do a good job this year, because we need to help each other.
I was eating at Colton's Steakhouse in Jefferson City the other night, and I went to a Walmart, and they've already got the Salvation Army bell ringers out there. And here's the thing that's going to get me. Wait, and if I miss it, somebody please keep us posted. Wait for the day between now and Christmas that Joe Biden comes out and says, Americans, we really need to give for charity. Well, you jackass, we would, but see, we ain't got no more money. And you know why? That's why. Don't tell me to give something that I ain't got because of what you've been doing since the tragic events of January the 20th.
Yeah, the same article actually tracks the average number of gifts planned for purchase. I don't know if this is like per person or what, but it says, what do you think the average number of gifts is?
3.4.
It looks like this year it's about 8.
What?
Whereas last year it was 16. Hopefully that's not per person. Hopefully that's like all the presents you buy. I don't know. I've never bought 16 gifts per person.
Never. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's probably all.
And do we wonder too, like, because we always, it's kind of weird psychological thing. What are other people doing? How are you spending $100 per kids for Christmas, or at least that's what the rate was. I'm guessing it's a little different than $100 anymore. But what are you doing? Do you do 3 gifts, 5 gifts? Do you give them cash?
And then you really want to know like who you're what the gift limit is when you're exchanging. And you gotta love like coworkers and stuff where you're like, okay, $50 limit, and then you just both exchange 2 $50 gift cards, and you're like, why are we wasting our time? Yep. This is silly.
Thank you. Now I won't feel like a fuddy-duddy when I bring up this same reasoning for any holiday function we have between now and Christmas.
Somebody who was expecting lots of gifts this year is my sweet little 8-year-old left her Christmas list on my pillow. She has 20 items, starting out with a Barbie, a makeup kit, but squeezed. So we get down to number 12. Number 12 is a lava lamp.
Groovy.
Number 14 is gum. Guess what number 13 is?
13 on the list. One of Stephanie's kids.
A new president.
Really? How old is she?
8.
8 years old.
Totally unsolicited. This was just left for me.
She brings a letter, says, Mom, can you mail this to Santa on your way out to Ellinger and Associates law firm in Jeff City today? And Mom says, what is it? Well, it's a letter to Santa. And Mom peeks at it before she sends it off to Santa. Number 13 on the list.
New president.
Wow. Smart kid. And then the other kid, in explaining tobacco, what did he say?
He said it was a cash crop relied on heavily by early settlers, which I guess is factually accurate.
That's true. Oh, and my favorite thing, so Stephanie has been kind enough to share a copy of the letter to Santa from her kid. So 13 on the list, new president. Last on the list, so she's got 20 items on the list, and then she wraps it up with, in bold caps, and that's it.
Just 20 things, Mom.
Cost of Thanksgiving here in mid-Missouri. We're covering that 5 minutes from now.
Ball we snap on the near hash. Chiefs load up 3 to the left side. Mahomes crossing pattern caught. Kelsey 10-yard line, 5-yard line, touchdown! Kansas City! Will Kelsey do it to the Chargers again on a crossing pattern? A touchdown, and now Travis Kelsey, a 17-yard touchdown reception to take the lead, plus his 33rd 100-yard receiving game of his career, the most by a tight end in National Football League history.
I don't mean to catch anybody off guard, but I'm going to because I forgot the name all of a sudden. Whose record did he break last night? Marsh, do you know? Former, yeah.
I couldn't tell you who it is.
It was somebody that Tom Brady used to throw the ball to. It's not Julian Edelman. Rob Gronkowski.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That's whose record he broke. Chiefs 8-2. Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL pass yardage, pass touchdowns per game. Chiefs look good. Does anybody ever get the idea, get the feeling like Patrick and Travis and the rest of the team, sometimes they just go out there and kind of half-assing it, and then it's like, oh, look, game's almost over. We better get for real. I mean, because there's so many games like this.
Yeah, I don't know. If that is the case, that's not good because you don't want to do that because in a game, you don't want to.
Sometimes you run out of clock.
Yeah, exactly. And they've come close a couple of times. I just think that he's just phenomenal both of them are phenomenal in the crunch time. But the other thing I notice about the defenses, for some reason, when they're playing the Chiefs, in almost every one of these examples that you've given, it's almost every game, with the exception of the Colts early in the season, they tend to blitz him early on, especially in that last drive. I don't know why it is, but they tend to drop back more. And if you're gonna lose, you might as well go down in fighting at least in blitz. I've never understood that idea of dropping back into a zone and dropping an extra person off the line because it's not going to do you any good, an extra defensive back in the backfield, not with him.
Well, because even the 2 games that we've lost, we lost to the Colts by 3 points, and I think we lost to the Bills by 4 points. Even the games we've lost, they've been really close games. Chiefs 8-2 now. Always fun watching the Chiefs, and I'm wondering what happened. Did anybody see? Did you see Travis Kelsey after he scored that touchdown with seconds left in the game? Slung the ball. I had the people in the end zone ducking because he flung that thing so hard. Whoa! Yeah.
There's a headline, by the way, in the Kansas City Star today, and I normally won't quote this, but I'm going to go ahead and quote it because it is a direct quote from the paper. Chargers fans were quoted as saying in the paper, quote, "They're our daddies," is the quote. That's on the front page of the Kansas
Who's your daddy?
That's on the front page of the Star.
Who's your daddy? The Chiefs are. I love it. And we've got a decent lead now in the AFC West. We're looking good. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian Hausworth, John Marsh. There is producer Hannah.
Good morning.
Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. We appreciate you joining us on the show. I was talking to Henry Rathert. He's my dad. You hear him occasionally co-hosting.
Do you actually call him Henry?
Not to his face. Hey, I used to have some cousins, and when we were growing up in southeast Missouri, Perry County, Missouri, we lived in towns like Wittenberg and Altenburg and Frona. And
very German.
Yeah, towns with populations smaller, 250 people. And I had a niece and nephew, a little bit younger than me. But their parents were always entertaining. They always had people at the house. And to say that they were always entertaining is making it sound really fancy. They always had people over drinking beer. It's the truth of it. I shouldn't say they were entertaining. But everybody is from a very young age. These kids, they heard everybody referring to their parents as Kim and Rick. Kim and Rick. They grew up, instead of calling them mom and dad, they called their parents by their names because that's what they heard. That's what they learned.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I remember the first time one of mine called their dad Chris, and he was like, nope.
Anyhow, where were we?
We were talking about how expensive Thanksgiving is.
Thanks.
Be.
I'm talking to my dad Henry on the phone the other day, and he said, I had a turkey. Here's $59 for he's going to smoke a turkey for him and my sister and some nieces and nephews over the weekend. Like $59. So I'm hanging out with Mr. Houseworth yesterday. We're just sitting around BSing, and I tell Brian, and he says, "Oh, you should see Missouri Farm Bureau, what they have on their website, something they do every year."
They do, and I generally do a story every year. In fact, I'm going to talk to Garrett Hawkins a little bit later this morning, who farms in St. Clair County. And we do a story, and normally, Brandon and Stephanie and Hannah, it goes up maybe $1 or $2 a little bit, and it's usually pretty average. But what they do is they look at a Thanksgiving feast for 10 people, and I won't give you all the items, but it's items like turkey is the primary one, but they look at also dinner rolls, milk, sweet potatoes, and they figure out how much it will cost for 10 people. This year, for a feast of 10, the nationwide average is about $64.05. Now, that checks in at less than $6.50 per person. However, what you look at is the percentage over year. It's 20% up from last year, and it's up 37% since 2020. So everything is going up with the exception of cranberry lovers. Cranberry are going down, but turkey has really gone up. And they've done this survey for 37 years. Basically, what happens is Missouri Farm Bureau members go to all the grocery stores in their town. They come up, write it all down, and then they send it off to Jeff City. They calculate it, and it is the highest it has ever been for Missouri Farm Bureau members. And, as you can imagine, the Farm Bureau is critical of the Biden administration on inflation. Take the politics out of it in this, it's going to cost people more, whether they go to the store or whether they eat out. And the cost of turkey, that's the biggest thing. It's up about 21% from last year. That's a huge, huge jump.
I don't know how big this turkey was that my dad bought at $59. Ooh. I remember, you could buy an 87-pound turkey for $12 or something.
Yeah, for $60, it sounds like you should be getting a prime rib or something, right? Yeah. Seriously.
I would just go ahead and buy the prime rib instead of the turkey. Who made the law? Is it written in law somewhere? Is there an ordinance in Jefferson City? It says I got to serve turkey for Thanksgiving. Are you aware of anything on the books like that, Marsh? Okay, never mind. I stand. Hey, listen.
Because it's going to get a presidential pardon. Is it that today?
That'll be Wednesday in the Rose Garden.
Can we?
My in-laws have always done tacos for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, there was a great letter to the editor, Jefferson City News Tribune today. Just kind of a reminder, hey, we can give thanks every day. And I really do believe that.
And we should.
But still, turkey and mashed potatoes and friends and family. Can we pardon this turkey?
Brandon, how are you? Can you hear me?
Happy birthday.
How old are you? What is that?
To you.
A cop.
Happy birthday.
Biden's being an extremist.
To you.
So the best way to get something done, if you...
Happy birthday.
If it holds near and dear to you that you...
Mr. President.
Like to be able to...
Happy birthday.
Anyway.
To you.
Oh, you know the thing. You're not out in the rain with the Halloweeners.
Can you believe Joe turned 80 over the weekend? And listen, that's great. I know... So listen,
you have to do it.
Stephanie actually came up with a really good idea this past Feel Good Friday, but we got too busy being morons here on the show Friday. But we were going to do an ice cream party because every time you see Joe Biden, reporters will be asking him important policy questions about stuff, and he'll just be licking that ice cream cone.
He loves ice cream. He does.
That's not surprising.
Who doesn't?
He does.
Who doesn't love ice cream?
He does.
But maybe when important stuff is going on, when the economy is in the dumpster, you shouldn't be buying $10 ice cream cones.
I know, and I'm thinking over the years, when I've got a pretty good memory, John does as well, I don't remember either Senator Biden nor President Biden nor Vice President Biden coming to Columbia, but I do remember specifically John, 2 times he came to the capital city. He came as candidate for vice president when he was running with Mr. Obama back in 2008, and then in 2009 he went to ABB. And it was well known he loved ice cream then. Now, the press doesn't get to go along with him on everything. What I don't know, and maybe you know, John, did he go to Central Dairy one of those days? It wouldn't surprise me, but if he did, they didn't. If he did go, we didn't find out because they didn't notify the press. But I'm surprised because I think he would have enjoyed that.
So the president, turning 80 years old, and talking about running for office again. His age doesn't matter. It is what is happening upstairs or not happening upstairs. That furnace ain't on, man.
He's running though. I take it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds to me like he's running, and based on the past election results, he's confident about what happened.
Here's the question I have too for people that are adamant Trump supporters. Of those, I include myself in the past. But if people are these Trump supporters are knocking Joe Biden because of his age, Trump's going to be 78 by the time 2024 rolls around. I mean, isn't that you got to apply the same set of rules? Now, where with Joe, it's different because he's got no mental sharpness.
But the founding fathers were very specific. They did not put an age limit in the Constitution, so it's up to the American people. The same question was asked of Ronald Reagan in 1984, and the press asked him during the debate, and he really fired back at it, but in a humorous way. He said he would not let his opponent's youth and inexperience. He would not use that as a political issue. Moment. And that basically was the end of that campaign. I mean, it was over after that. Against Mr. Mondale. But regardless, they were both in their 70s, the last campaign, and if they are the nominees, I mean, they're both very popular in their bases. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, they can run. They can run if they're in their 90s. They could run.
And maybe it's the voters. We should be more worried about not just the guy running, but the people that are voting for him, like a Joe Biden and Biden Fetterman 2024. It's a no-brainer, man. Figuratively and literally, actually.
Yikes.
Let's do some leftovers. I'm going to open
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, some things we didn't get a chance to get to during the show here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Something we touched on a little bit, but we got some traction on it via text at 874-9390. 874-9390. Pence, he was on MSNBC over the weekend, and the conversation turns to abortion. Which is fine. People want to know, what do you think? I think most people, well, maybe not true that most people know where conservatives are, because a lot of them have actually moved on the issue since the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year. They were adamantly against it, and then some of them scrubbed their campaign websites. Well, I'm okay with it. So anyhow, Pence asked about it. His answer, he gave a really good answer. The biggest thing, check out the way Chuck Todd phrases the question.
Are you comfortable with the idea of essentially government-mandated pregnancy?
What incredible bull. That's not mandated government pregnancy. These people make a choice to get in that, to have sex, whatever, and I get sometimes people accidentally get pregnant, but that is not. And here's the thing that bothers, that's not government mandated pregnancy. And I'd like to know what Chuck Todd makes per year and where his degree is from. That's shocking. That's almost as bad as the Columbia Missourian, maybe worse than the Columbia Missourian posting BS regarding FUSUS. And I want to highlight this again too. We talk about Trump and Twitter. Yesterday, the Twitter meltdowns over Elon Musk, over the fact that he now owns Twitter. And I love it because it's just, sometimes we, I try to be a real positive guy, and I really believe that. But sometimes it is fun to see other people have emotional meltdowns over over
Twitter, for sure.
It's like my 4-year-old, 5-year-old granddaughter, Harper. And 4 years old, 3 years old, when she didn't get her Twinkies, man, she'd have a meltdown.
Twitter is melting down right now, for sure. But I think, and I got called out on Twitter about my comments about Twitter earlier today, because I said I do have questions. Like, they fired half of their staff. They're missing half of their workforce. I think what I said was, if any other organization was missing half their workforce, like, we would notice, right? If half the McDonald's employees didn't show up, your breakfast would not be as timely as it is, right? We'd have issues here at Zimmer if suddenly half of our people were gone. Twitter seems to be doing just fine. But I did get someone on Twitter told me, hey, what about the federal government? We could probably stand to lose half of the workforce of the federal government.
And they would get points.
And I said, yeah, truth, facts. I like that take. So I should have clarified and said private enterprise. But still, Twitter is, it's up and running. It doesn't appear to be slow or glitchy or anything. It appears to be working.
I'm also going to give James some point via text, 874-9390, talking about Biden turned 80 and loves ice cream. He'll stand up, man, and talk serious foreign relations policy while he's licking an ice cream cone. Biden's favorite flavor is cream dementia.
Yikes.
It's all right. You got anything for leftover stuff?
Oh, well, there's a lawsuit. And, John, maybe you can tell us more about this. Carla Steck still suing Steve Korsmeyer? Is that right? Yeah, I don't know that she followed the procedures, and also, that the statutes prefer and offer preferences to a two-party system is nothing new in Missouri or elsewhere, and that, if you choose to be a third-party candidate, the road might be a little bit more difficult. I think there are all sorts of ballot access laws, and I actually saw a piece about Georgia and someone who wanted to challenge Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they said you had to get like 30,000 signatures to even get your name on the ballot as a non-two-party candidate person, and so she got her name on the ballot. Are there some challenges? Sure, but there are other states where it's much worse, and those types of restrictions have been upheld by the courts, so I don't see this going anywhere.
And finally, the SVR issues, the things hospital going to people for. Pfizer and Moderna conducting clinical trials to determine if their COVID-19 vaccines could be contributing to possible cardiac issues.